Now, while there are endless things that we can take away from a sport like running for our mental health, for our physical health, today I want to zoom in on five particular elements of running, which are my absolute favorite physiological changes that take place that I think about on a fairly regular basis when I'm out there running. You often wouldn't think of the fact that these are things taking place which lead to an improved performance, but it's kind of exciting to stop for a moment and zoom in on what is actually happening. So with that said, let's have a look at point number one, and that is your heart becomes a better engine. Now, just jump into this analogy with me for just a moment. Consider that your heart is in fact an engine. When you first start running, it's going to pump blood, say for example, maybe 70 times per minute. But here's where it gets a little bit wild. Over time, running literally remodels the heart chambers. They get bigger, they get stronger, they pump more blood with each beat. And as a result, you start to notice a couple of things. First of all, your heart rate drops. This is one thing that people who love zone 2 training talk about a lot. You can go out with your heart rate set at what is zone 2 for you, and at the start, that's a certain pace. But over time, with consistency and focus, physiological adaptations begin to take place, which see your heart rate staying the same, but your pace begin to increase. With the analogy we've just said, it makes perfect sense. When there's an efficiency of blood being pumped throughout your body, oxygen far more easily travels around, allowing you to run faster for longer. More than that, outside of running, your blood pressure improves and your heart becomes up to 50% more efficient at pumping blood. This is not just beneficial for you when you're out there trying to run better times. This is good as an investment into the future you. Number two, your bones actually get stronger, but it's not exactly as you think. Now, here's what happens. When you're out there running, every single step, your bones bend ever so slightly, which triggers a little process called osteoblast. Now, when the osteoblasts take place, they build new bone tissue. It's like your skeleton is constantly under construction, but in a really good way. Now, over time, here's a couple of things you're going to notice. Your bones actually become denser. Your joints get better at absorbing impact, and it reduces your risk of conditions like osteoporosis by up to 40%. Now, one little word of warning, there is an exception to this, and that is when you throw too much at yourself too quickly, you're going to begin to see little bone breakdowns. You'll see this often through things like stress fractures, but if you can get that balance of your training and the build up correct and stay patient in the process, the strength of your skeleton will literally improve. Number three, your brain literally rewires itself. Now, okay, bear with me because this is something which is foreign to so many of us. We don't often think about the brain changes that take place when we run. But recently, I had the man behind the math method, Mr. Phil Maffetone, on the Relaxed Running podcast to talk about this process specifically. Not only is he well known around the world for his investment in the math method, he's also worked and lived with creative geniuses like music producer Mr. Rick Rubin on the world of creativity. Now, when you have a bloke like this on the podcast, you've got to listen. Here's a couple of standout features around your brain that change when you're out there running on a consistent basis. Running actually floods your brain with something called BDNF. Think of it as like a fertilizer for your brain cells. New neural connections form. Your memory center or your hippocampus actually grows, and stress chemicals like cortisol drop by up to 30%. This is the reason that so many of us who are out there running have experienced things like the runner's high. When that stress disappears, it's so much easier to enjoy ourselves. So if you're looking for another way to improve your mental health, consider throwing running into the mix of things that you can do. Number four, your muscles actually change at a cellular level. They don't just get stronger, they completely transform. If you delved into each muscle fiber, here's a couple of things that you would notice. The mitochondria, the energy powerhouse, multiply. Blood vessels increase by up to 45%. The muscle fibers become more fatigue resistant, and fast twitch fibers can convert to endurance focused ones. Now, if you haven't noticed the theme already, efficiency seems to be the trend. When you do something like running on a consistent basis, your body learns to adapt and adjust to what it is that you're feeding it, and the muscles are no different. You want to see some real changes and health improvement in your own lifestyle? Once again, running is the perfect candidate to help you along with this goal. All right, and let's go out with an absolute bang. Number five, running actually helps protect your DNA. What a mind-blowing thought to go out on. Running actually protects your DNA. Those little caps at the end of your DNA strands called telomeres. Regular runners have longer ones, which is linked to slower aging at a cellular level and also a longer life. Telomeres can degrade slower, cellular aging slows down, and anti-aging proteins increase by up to 70%. And the absolute best news is these changes begin taking place from your very first run. You don't have to be out there running for 20 years for those telomeres to get longer. Simple investment and small steps in the right direction can actually help this process take place right now. So regardless of where you're at or how much of a runner you don't think you are, these changes take place in you just as they do in me and everybody else. So if you haven't considered getting out there and running, or you don't know where to start, feel free to reach out to me in the comments below or via one of our training programs at relaxedrunning.com. But there's no doubt that some pretty wild transformations begin to take place, which is helpful not just for your running, but for your life. So if you haven't started yet, I highly encourage you to get out there, start taking those steps towards a healthier, happier, and more enjoyable life.